we will get started. But I hope everybody's doing well. We are getting going. Hold on one second. I got to get one more person in here. Excellent. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. There's Angela. Hello, hello. How are you?
Just to stay straight. Hold on. I'm good. Long time no see.
I know. I'm excited. I am.
Too. Oh my gosh, this is not working right.
Let's see. Saying that it's not able to add Miss Stacy. Hold on.
One thing I've noticed is I have to keep tapping my screen to get it to stay. Is that something you just have to do?
No, it should be fine. It should be fine.
Hi.
Yay!
Yay,
it worked.
Perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Hello.
I am so excited that you are joining us today. You are our first interview with our new ambassador. So yay. And I am so excited. I loved meeting you in Orlando when you were here with the other candidates and having a chance to just talk to you for a couple minutes. So I think it's super appropriate that you're our first one because you really have a passion for all of this. So I am very excited. So why don't we start with just an introduction of you. Let us know a little bit more about you, and then we're going to go through some questions with you.
Cool. Sounds great. Well, thank you both for having me. I hope you guys are both having a great day. To you all that are watching, my name is Andolyn Medina. I also go by Andi for short, so feel free to call me either. I am Miss District of Columbia 2021 and will be competing for the 100th Miss America this December, which is crazy.
Amazing.
So exciting. But in the meantime, I'm also a doctoral candidate. I'm finishing up my PsyD in clinical psychology at George Washington. Yes, so I'm super excited. I'm also a naval officer, and I also am a therapist when I'm not doing my studies as a doctoral candidate. And so that is why I'm really excited about working with you all with Realtalk and Nobu, because it is in my wheelhouse of what I do sort of day to day as a therapist. And then personally, of course, I have experience of folks that I've known that have struggled with substance abuse. And so I've seen, the real life impact that it has had on folks, and also have seen sort of the other hand, some of the misconceptions I think a lot of people have when it comes to folks struggling with substance abuse as well. So I'm excited to have this space to talk with you all and hopefully be able to shine some light on that to the viewers.
Excellent. Well, we are thrilled that you're here, and I think you bring such a beautiful perspective to everything that we're going to be doing with Realtalk, and then of course with Nobu. And today we really wanted to just open up the conversation because I think mental health has definitely become something that thankfully so many more people are willing to talk about, which is a good thing, right? So, but I always like to ask those that we discuss this with, how do you take care of yourself?
Yes, which is really important. I think especially as a therapist, they always say every good therapist has another good therapist, because if you're listening to people all day, you need somebody else to talk to. So I am a huge advocate of being in my own therapy myself, but then also as we'll talk about the ways in which mental health sort of correlates with physical health. And so I've also been really passionate about working out, making sure that I'm giving myself that sort of time that I need to spend by myself to give to my body and to my mind. And then I also practice yoga, which has been really helpful for being intentional and really mindful about the ways the mind, body, and soul connect.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. I did a lot of the same when I was in school for being a therapist myself. And so, self-care is so important. And I think one of the things that Allison and I have talked a lot about with folks on our podcast too, Dear Mind, You Matter, plug, is that it isn't this one size fits all thing, right? It's not what works for me isn't gonna work for everyone else or you, or whomever it is. So what's something that you found over time that you were sort of resistant to maybe at first? And maybe this is yoga. I know for a lot of people it is.
Yes.
But yeah, like, so what's something that maybe like it wasn't working for you before, you sort of saw other people doing it and you were just kind of like, meh. And now you're sort of an advocate for it, or, just something that was more surprising to you in terms of what's supported you in all of this.
Yeah, so I would say yoga for sure is one of them, but I would say even more so there's something that I'm kind of still struggling with and working through, which is meditation and journaling. Meditation I find really hard because I find it extremely hard to quiet my mind for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just be present. It is extremely hard, but I've been working on being kinder to myself in those moments and realizing that, in some ways, wherever my mind goes while I'm meditating is part of the process of meditating. And so that has been really informative for me, especially because I'm a person that's like, I'm not stressed, I'm fine. And then I'll be meditating and I'm like, yeah, maybe you're a little stressed. Like if your mind can't be quiet for 10 minutes, maybe you're a little stressed. So that has been helpful in sort of reflecting to me what I need in those moments and to be mindful. And then also through being Miss DC, my mom brought me a journal, and I've never been one for journaling. And it still has been hard as Miss DC to like write down everything that's happening in a day, but that's something I'm trying to make myself do just so I can be present in the moment and like really take in all that's happening in this year.
And there's so much happening this year, right?
So much.
I mean, this is, I think for, the young women that have the chance to compete at Miss America, it's a huge opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And you also want to capture all those moments too. And having that journal is going to be just such a beautiful keepsake for you after your year, and you'll be able to look back on it and helps you process too. Because I don't think a lot of people realize that, when you're in that position of influence, there's a lot of pressure, right? There's a lot going on. You have high expectations of yourself. People have high expectations of you. You're on the road a lot. It can sometimes be very lonely when you don't even realize, you're like, oh, you're in this, this public figure, but yet, right. So much of what's happening feels like, oh my gosh, I'm on my own here. So
definitely.
So it's so important. Well, I'm glad that you're trying the meditation and journaling. I totally can relate with the quieting of the mind thing. So I'm doing like guided meditations right now, and that's helping me a lot because somebody's telling me what to do and where to go and how to think and let the light shine brightly on me. And I'm working through it. It's getting there. So, but work in progress. So who's somebody, though, that you look up to? I mean, do you have a role model when it comes to somebody that's really active in the mental health community, or maybe a celebrity that's really utilized their platform to speak on mental health? Who's somebody that you look up to that we should also have on our radars?
I would say before maybe this past year or so, that wasn't as present for me. But if I had to say two, it would be Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, just because they are women of my own age group. And so it has been really inspirational just to see them take back their power and sort of be unapologetic about their mental health and putting that first. And I think that's something that I always sort of struggled with, the idea that we could put ourselves first and that doesn't make us selfish for doing that. But to see these two incredibly remarkable, high-performing women that have all this pressure that, like you were just speaking about, really pause and say, no, I'm going to put my mental health first, has just been really inspiring for me, especially being 25. I have so much life ahead of me, but to know that at 25, I can take that ownership back and start to lead my life in that way is really, really powerful. And so they are the two that I would say I'm really looking at and have been really moved by over the past 2 years.
Oh, that's amazing. 25. Allison, I'm just thinking back.
I mean, that's so long ago, I can't even remember.
I love it. We got generations on here.
Yeah.
So you're doing so much. I have so many questions, but you're doing so much. And so I think, just like the people that you look to, and all of us sort of probably on this call have some level of experience with this. How are you managing your time and choosing what you say no and what you say yes to?
Yes. And another plug for you all's podcast. I forget who was speaking on this, but the person who spoke on boundaries and time. I think that is incredibly important. And that's something that I learned in college, as somebody that was involved in so many different things and so many different spaces, was really being serious about putting like time on my calendar that this is going to be time for me, and just really being okay with being selfish about that. So that's been something that I've been trying to walk more in doing, and walking more in the talk that I'm talking. And so I have a calendar that I always keep up to date. I have 2 separate emails, one for Miss DC, one for all of my school things, just to help me stay as organized as possible. And then it's really important to me to make sure I'm surrounding myself with really great friends and people that are going to make sort of deposits in my life and not always be asking me to do things. And so I find that that is like my biggest way of like recharging myself, is just having either a quiet night to myself or some time with my friends where I can just be me and I'm not worrying about how they're going to judge me or what they're going to think. Like I can just let it all hang out. And that's what I find that I need. Literally the night before my Miss DC interview, I was up till midnight, I think, hanging out with my friends. And my mom was like, Andi, like, you have an interview in the morning. Like, it's kind of a big deal. And I was like, no, but I feel like what I really need right now, I feel like, is just some time with my friends. And I really appreciated my mom really respecting that and giving me that. And I won Miss DC, so obviously it worked. But it's really knowing what you need and not feeling bad about giving that to yourself.
Oh, I agree so much. It's so important for us to know ourselves, and to be very self-aware of what our needs are so we can fill up our own cups, because we can't just constantly deplete without being replenished ourselves. So what's one piece of advice that you would either give your younger self or a younger sibling or somebody that, asks your advice around mental health or substance use prevention or any of those areas? I think it's so important that we realize that we have the ability to really pass on positive habits or prevention and having those conversations. So what's something you would say to them?
This year has been really nice for me because I've reflected a lot about who I was when I was a kid and what I thought I would be like or what I thought would happen. And the biggest takeaway that I have is that everything is temporary, especially when you're a kid. It can feel so salient that all the relationships or all the things that are happening are permanent and like things are not going to get better, they're not going to change. And so I would just really encourage the kids out there, if they're watching, or my younger self, to just remember that things do get better. There is time, things can change, there will be transitions, and also just to know that there always is somebody out there that is willing to talk to you, because I think it is so easy to feel like you see the adults and you feel like they're always busy, they're always doing something, they don't have time for you. But as somebody that is now an adult, I can say genuinely, I think there's nothing that we all want more than for kids to talk to us and to tell us where they're at, tell us what they're struggling with. So to anybody that's watching out there, just please know that there is somebody out there that is willing to talk to you, to sit with you, and to be there for you, even if it doesn't feel like it.
Well, that's such great advice. It's so hard though when you're in that, right? Because, oh man, I'm thinking back to when I lost my license. Okay, I'll be honest. My license was taken away from me. I shouldn't have had a license when I was 16, okay? And you feel like you're never going to go anywhere again. Your life is over. You're never going to see your friends again. But I mean, I just remember that feeling of just, like you're saying, everything just feels like it's never going to change. And you see everything moving in ultra, light speeds around you. So that sort of makes me think about, when because I think you said you're also practicing or seeing people. And so you have so much of this to lend to them, even at such a young age. And so I'm wondering, what do you find that people are coming to you for, at this point or at this stage where we're in still sort of the pandemic and just lots of these other, feelings and experiences that are going on in the world? What are you seeing? Any common themes there that you've really tried to help people through?
I think it's been a lot of anxiety, specifically surrounding like fear of the unknown and the uncertainty, and that also linking to people really struggling with motivation and sort of energy levels, especially coming from a year where we were remote and now people are going back in person. So it's a lot of figuring out like, how do I operate again like this? And I think a lot of people, sort of what Allison was indicating at the beginning, this is the first time people have interacted with mental health. So it is a lot of like a lot of unknown things, with them sort of saying like, I feel like I'm stressed, but I don't know. I feel like I'm anxious, but I don't know. And so me sort of as a therapist sort of being able to voice like, yes, this is what you're experiencing, providing some psychoeducation. You're not alone in what you're experiencing. This is what we see happening, and really helping people start their journey to mental health. A lot of my work right now has just been people really at the beginning phases of understanding like, oh, all along, this was related to mental health. And so it's been nice getting to see people actually engage in this conversation and wanting to gain some insight into what's happening, especially when the pandemic was so focused about our physical health. It's nice to see people starting to link the two, that mental health and physical health do connect.
Absolutely.
They absolutely do. They go hand in hand, and it's just continuing to be a topic of conversation, and I hope it's never not a topic of conversation, because this is something that we have to prioritize. It's a big reason why Advanced Recovery Systems does the work that we do, why we're so proactive, why we're having efforts and initiatives like Realtalk, why we've got the Nobu app, why we've got Dear Mind You Matter. It's all about having those critical conversations that can really change the course and trajectory of your life, can empower you to do something about it, be proactive. So, well, we've got a couple more questions. They're kind of like a rapid fire for the audience today, because as a Realtalk ambassador, not only are you talking, to students, but you're also promoting our newest app, our mental wellness app, which is Nobu. So tell everybody that's listening right now, what's your favorite feature in Nobu, and what should they check out first?
So I really love the Find a Therapist feature of Nobu, simply because I know how hard it is to find a therapist. And I think a lot of people don't think about it, but I really appreciate you all making that accessible, especially if we're talking about substance abuse. There can be so much shame around substance abuse or around how to get help. And the fact that you all make it accessible by being able to share, what therapists, what providers are available and willing to work with folks, I think is a huge sort of step forward in connecting the gaps that we see within the mental health system, because a huge issue is the stigma that's surrounding it. So by you all meeting people where they are, I think is really exciting, especially as a therapist who knows how difficult it is to find other therapists.
Thank you. We're very happy about that feature too. And then my co-pod queen, I'm sure, and Dr. Phillips, I'm sure you're curious just like I am as far as what her favorite episode was. So Audie, what was your favorite episode of our podcast?
Oh, it was the most recent one with Dr. Rob Kelly, because my program what I'm studying is a psychodynamic approach. So it's all about the unconscious and the things that we don't always connect. And I really appreciated him adding voice to the trauma component, because that's all I do a lot of trauma work as well. And it is one of my biggest pet peeves whenever people say marijuana is the gateway, because I know that it's not. And I just wish you would understand it's trauma. So I really appreciated hearing him voice that and being able to speak to that, because I think a lot of people are struggling with trauma, but don't necessarily realize it is trauma, or that that's something that is impacting them. And so it's nice to hear that and hear that reflected, because another thing that I always talk about in regards to substance abuse, especially the empathy component, is that a lot of folks just say, like, why don't they quit? And they don't realize that it's loaded, it's heavy, and the substance in and of itself is a coping mechanism for this trauma. And so asking people to sort of get rid of that is asking them to embrace a world of pain, fear, like their deepest fears. And so it is incredibly hard. And I appreciated him adding voice to that, so that other people can hopefully have empathy for, how difficult substance use addictions are.
Yeah, you bring up, like, that was my favorite part of talking to the amazing Dr. Rob Kelly. I love how just blunt, straightforward, we just got into it, which was fantastic. And you can really feel his personality through the audio, through the mic. He's going to jump through the screen at you. But one thing I love that you point this out, because, for so long, and of course this still continues, there's still stigma around everything we're talking about, right? But for so long, we've been so kind of complacent to this model that it's everything that's going on around us that's wrong. And it's not that there's something wrong with us, but it's that we've had these experiences and we need to learn how to adapt and grow, and that comes with trauma, right? But like, as you're saying, it's like we've always said, it's the gateway drug, it's this thing over here, it's that they should be able to stop doing this behavior, and it's the behavior or the other people, right? And so I love that we're like taking this back and saying, you know, it doesn't mean it's my fault when I'm owning it and I'm going to see a therapist for it. So, you know, like give me some support, like give me some credit for that. I just love that, just, you know, total takeover of so much social media and just so many resources. So it's great. And I love that you're such a proponent for it. That makes me very happy that you're in the position that you are. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about my future. And it's nice even to have patients that are coming in for the first time that are struggling with everything that you just said, and being able to share that to them, and like physically being able to see a weight sort of lifted, and realizing that they both have the help and support of somebody that understands what they're going through, and that they can gain some insight around, you know, their substance abuse and what it means for them.
Absolutely. Well, you are amazing, and we are just blessed that we got to spend some time with you today. So if people are interested in supporting you, cheering you on, everything that's coming, you know, your way in a couple months, where should they follow you? How should they connect? Go ahead and plug.
So,
plug away.
Yes, please feel free to follow me on my official Miss DC account, Miss America DC. That is the closest way that you can keep up with day-to-day interactions of what Miss DC looks like. For my personal account, it's where's.ondo. It's a play off Where's Waldo. So feel free to follow that just if you want to keep up with me and the things that I'm doing when I'm not Miss DC. And then just to overall learn more about me or booking me for any appearances, especially Realtalk appearances in the DC area, you can visit my website, www.andolynmedina.com, which is also listed on Miss America DC.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so great to have you. We wish you the best.
Yes, thank you all so much, and thank you for the work you do. I'm so glad I got to join you all. I can't wait for more.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.